Toy Story 5's been a long time coming at this point, hasn't it? When was the first time we got word that they were going to be making yet another film in the franchise, despite having settled on ending back in 2019 with 4? I think it was back in 2023 that they first announced a fresh Toy Story film was in the works during an earnings call. It seemed like despite them openly stating after Toy Story 4 that they wanted to focus on original content, they were very quickly coming back to the well. I get it though. Their run of original stuff, which could have been very successful in cinemas because of COVID, ended up going straight to Disney+, which was obviously not earning the studio enough money that they would have wanted. Then on top of that, Lightyear, their return to the cinemas in 2022, was a massive flop, so I get why they broke glass in case of emergency. They were right to do so if you ask me, as the year following, Elemental did only okay at the box office, then Alio crashed and burned harder than any film in Pixar history just this year. Meanwhile, the one bright spot in all of this was Inside Out 2 in 2024, which is the highest grossing film in the company's history. Thus, I think that Pixar is very vindicated in trying to bring back these big hitter franchises to offset any losses made by their original content. Let's see how Hoppers does, shall we? Anyway, despite us knowing about this film 3 years before its release date, it has taken a while to get much information about it. And it was only earlier this year that some of the first look footage was shown with that very, very low quality clip of the Buzz Lightyear army doing their thing. Beyond that though, it was mostly just some still images. Thankfully, that's changed with the release of the first proper teaser for Toy Story 5, and yeah, I'll be honest, it's not quite doing the numbers I would have expected from a Toy Story 5 teaser. As of writing this, it's been out for 5 hours and it hasn't even hit 1 million views on YouTube, which is bizarre to me. It's not like it's all that close either. It's on 700,000 as of writing this, so just limped over 500,000. It's really weird because it's simply well behind the pace of a lot of other franchises that find themselves deep into the millions by that point in time. I figured that A, Pixar usually gets traction on their content, and B, this is a teaser for Toy Story 5, which is in many ways the franchise for Pixar. It might not be the highest grossing film they've ever made, but it's by far the most famous and by far the most prominent. Everybody across the world knows Woody and Buzz, and so I expected more. Has the company fallen off that much in terms of popularity? Has Toy Story? If nothing else, I expect the film to make bank off people's nostalgia, but is the well running dry now? Or is it simply going to be an aberration of some sort? Actually, now that I've written this, it's starting to pick up a lot more traction. It's blasted its way into the 800,000s within 5 to 10 minutes, and so I think it really was just getting screwed over by algorithms and all of that. Now it's trending, and so I guess it's going to explode. Oh look, it's been another 5 or so minutes, and it's almost at 1 million. It just goes to show what happens when you speak too soon. I knew something felt off. No matter what you think about Toy Story or Pixar, there's no reality where this is some sort of nothing film that's going to get no attention. It's an extremely big name, probably the biggest in all of animation. So this brings us to the teaser. Even by teaser standards, it's short and barely shows anything about the film at all, and I was thrown off a bit by this, but I guess it is what it is, and we'd better just bite the bullet and jump into it. Before we look at the clips, as is usual with this sort of thing, there was a little blurb that's come along with the teaser trailer. It reads, in the teaser, fans are introduced to a new character, LilyPad, a high-tech, frog-shaped smart tablet voiced by Greta Lee that makes Buzz, Woody, Jessie, and the rest of the gang's job exponentially harder when they have to go head-to-head with an all-new threat to playtime. So it's really not anything we didn't know ahead of time. We already knew that the story was going to be toys versus tech, and that Woody and the gang would be reuniting. But I get it. For the majority of the target audience, this is going to be their first introduction to what direction the story is going to be taking. So it doesn't make sense to deep dive into anything just yet. For somebody who is involved in the fandom though, and has been waiting for ages, it is obviously a little bit frustrating, but like I said, I get it. That's just how this sort of thing's always going to play out. You've got to build up the casual interest first and trickle out details over time to build that interest and ensure people keep caring. I mean, the movie isn't set to release until what? June 2026? That's ages away. Probably not going to start learning more until next year at the very least if Zootopia is anything to go off. After all, wasn't the first trailer for that just a montage of Nick and Judy running away from cops with the snake? I don't think they even used any real clips from the movie itself. Anyway, we'd better dive in. The teaser begins with a package in the back of a truck, and the song Never Tear Us Apart by INXS begins to play. Okay, so just immediately from the music choice and the fact that a package was being delivered to Bonnie's house, I figured there were two major choices here. Either the song's being used to represent the bond between Bonnie and the toys that are under threat by the new LilyPad, or it's being used here to represent Woody making his return to Bonnie's room and reuniting with the gang, as we know that he's going to feature in the movie. So either it was going to be LilyPad in that package, or it was going to be Woody. I think I actually would have preferred Woody, to tell you the truth, as it would have been a somewhat subversion of expectations, as everybody's looking shocked and scared, and so you expect it's going to be a villain coming out of the box. Instead though, it's Woody. I just thought this would be pretty clever, but obviously the teaser does away with that line of thinking by showing him outright in the teaser with a reaction shot. So the package arrives and Bonnie's mum calls her, and we get a shot of the key toys gathered and looking rather shell-shocked. We have Rex and Slinky standing together shaking. We have Forky and, whatever the other one's called, Knifey, maybe? Forky's shaking, covering his eyes. The Potato Head's with Mister taking his wife's eyes so she doesn't have to see. There's Jessie with Bullseye carrying behind her, followed by the green aliens doing the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil poses, followed by Bonnie getting Lily Pad out of the box and turning it on. Then the teaser ends with a glimpse of Buzz and Woody both cowering together too. Okay, so immediately I have to say the animation for this really does look incredible, doesn't it? I mean, I think a lot of people in this day and age really do take for granted how good Pixar's animation in particular looks. I mean, I grew up with Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2 in my VHS collection, and I watched them on repeat. I loved them, still do, especially Toy Story 2. However, when you go back and watch them now, they do look dated despite them being the absolute cutting edge back when they first released, and even as I grew older, they mostly still held up. That's how much Pixar has developed in the last 10 or so years. Hell, I think you have films now that are only a decade old at this point that have definitively been left in the dust by Pixar's advancements in the medium. For me, it just never gets old seeing how good it looks, and that's always been a bit of a silver lining. Even if I dislike a film for the story, at least it looked good, and I got a bit of that childhood awe making it come back in that way. That's definitely how I felt when Lightyear came out back in 2022. I didn't like the story of the film, and I thought it was a weird direction to take things, but at the same time, I still had an okay time because it simply looked good and I had something enjoyable to focus on. It was nowhere near good enough to even come close to salvaging the movie overall, but like I said, it's the silver linings. As for the content of the teaser itself, I'm honestly a little bit meh on the whole thing. I mean, it has clearly done its job in engaging the hype. I think earlier in the video I talked about where it was in terms of views. Now it's at 1.6 million and it's clearly gonna blow up. It's Toy Story after all. How could I ever have doubted it? That being said, I feel like they could have shown a little bit more or offered up a bit more explanation. For the most part, I think simply having the toys slowly reacting to Lilypad's introduction worked well, and you don't need to showcase what Lilypad's going to be like or what role she's going to play in the story just yet. There's plenty of time for that going forward in future trailers over the next 6 to 7 months. I think my main issue though is that Woody appears, or at least the context in which he appears. Woody has been a contentious figure since Toy Story 4 came out for a lot of people, simply because of the way his story ended up going. I mean, at the end of Toy Story 3 he had this huge emotional send-off with all the other toys saying goodbye to Andy, who'd been their owner across all of the franchise. You have this moment of rebirth for the toys, where you go from being relics of the past to the future of a new child. A great ending, people thought. Then we came to Toy Story 4, and this is the one where people started to get pissed off. I also once felt like this, although after I rewatched the movie for the first time last year, I had the realization I'd been massively blinded by my bias, and that the ending and general story of 4 is actually quite good. It does make a lot of sense. It involves Woody's realization that you can't recreate what you've lost. Bonnie is not Andy, and the life they have there isn't actually something he wants anymore. Couple that with his desire to be with Bo, who'd been lost to him many years ago, and suddenly his decision to become a nomadic toy helping other toys find their happy endings makes a lot of sense. That being said, whether you love or hate the ending of Toy Story 4, the ending is that Woody and Buzz are going to be separated for the foreseeable future. So I'm not saying that I don't want Woody to be in the film, although I do think they could have done something to that effect to let the story breathe and not immediately go into the status quo. I just think it would have been more interesting to have them separate initially when you're in your promotional materials and come back together at some point during the movie. Here they're quite literally having him be back with the gang as if nothing happened at all. I just don't get it. I feel like him coming back to the toys in Bonnie's room and their big reunion should be treated as a big thing, and whilst it is the final shot in this trailer showing that they know it's a big moment, it's just wild to me that they drop it in there like the ending of Toy Story 4 didn't happen. I do wonder about that, to be honest. How is this film going to end? The smart money would suggest that they're going to keep making Toy Story films beyond the 5th one, as toys versus tech does not seem the place they're going to end the franchise. I mean, the 4th film was very much geared towards being the end of an era. Who can forget the endless use of the tagline, "They rode like the wind, to infinity and beyond," and the liberal use of "so long, partner," as well. They had actors talking about how it was an emotional finale and all that jazz. Nothing here so far has had me thinking that this is the end, so I do wonder if they're once again walking back the ending of a previous film to reset the status quo. Do they regret having Woody go off on his own with Bo Peep? Has there been a significant shakeup in Pixar's creative team or something? I just don't really get what's going on. In that regard, I did find it a bit strange. Not bad, just strange. Anyway, of course, there are still a lot of mysteries in regards to the film that haven't really been touched on at all in this teaser. Obviously, the big one right now is what the hell's going on with Woody? Dude was left in some random nowhere pit stop town, wasn't he? I figured if he was going to return, it would be the toys somehow bringing him back to try to help him against Lilypad, but here it would suggest that he was already going to be back. Then again, this could simply be the magic of editing, because there's no real way to know if the reaction shots are even going to be in the movie, or if this is a custom sequence like Nick and Judy fleeing the police with Gary in the Zootopia teaser. This might just be here to build the hype, and I'm working myself up for nothing. We'll just have to wait and see. What the teaser doesn't touch on though, that we know are 100% in the movie, is the Buzz Lightyear army. I presume they will have a much bigger bigger role going forward in future teasers and trailers because it seems like a very specific sort of idea. It does make me curious as to how they're even going to be used. Are they going to feature much throughout the film itself? Are they lily pads goons? A side quest for Woody the Nomad? It really does feel like two completely separate film concepts if you ask me, but for now, I'll just trust the process and see how it all goes. I also have a couple of questions about Lilypad herself. I do wonder if they're going to have her be an out-and-out villain, or are they going to subvert expectations? In Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3, they had villain reveals. Stinky Pete was revealed to selfishly be sabotaging Woody's attempts to go back home, and Lotso, after initially seeming like a nice guy, is revealed to be a dictator in the Sunnyside daycare. Lotso has the chance of redemption when they help him out of the furnace conveyor belt, and yet he chooses to leave them behind before getting his own just desserts. Same with Pete. He could have gone with the other Roundup crew members, but he chose his own happiness instead and got his just desserts. 4 had a villain redemption where it was revealed that not everything was as it seems with Gabby Gabby. She reforms, she gets her own happy ending over the course of the movie. Meanwhile, Woody is the OG antagonist of Toy Story 1, and he clearly reformed his ways and changed for the better. Yeah, there was Sid as well, but it's clear that Woody was the main antagonist of that film, whilst also being the protagonist, if that's even possible. So we can see that Toy Stories approach their antagonists in a lot of different ways, and they're not afraid of being creative and thinking outside the box. Rarely, though, have we known who the antagonist was 100% ahead of time with a film treating it like this. It's being treated as toys versus tech, an outright fight. And thus, I think there is going to be a reveal that she's not so bad at the end, and they're going to come to some sort of understanding, although I could also be 100% wrong on that. Okay, so I know we've gone off on tangents, but hey, that teaser was bare bones is all. There wasn't much else to say. I had to add my own thing. So with all that being said, these have been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the Toy Story 5 teaser? Did you like it? Hate it? Has it got you hyped up for the film? Maybe not. I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.